Okay, so for this beginner's makeup tutorial, I'm going to try and explain as much as I can, go in depth into everything as much as I can. I also wanted to film a false lashes and wing liner tutorial, so I'm going to try not to focus too much on those things, just for the sake of this video not being 30 minutes long. For my foundation, I'm going to be using this Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless Foundation, and you can use whatever foundation you're used to. Honestly, there's a lot of good drugstore foundations, just as there is high-end foundations. This is one good drugstore foundation that I would recommend. So this is just the one that I'm going to be using today, and it doesn't have a pump or anything, so you kind of just have to dip it into the back of your hand. Don't take too much foundation. Take a little amount on the back of your hand and start with that. If you need to add more, then you can, but it's better not to waste your product and add a whole ton and then have to dispose of that product. So I'm going to show you a couple of ways that you can apply your foundation. You can use a beauty blender, which I honestly love using. It gives the most natural, like, satin finish, and I really love how that looks on me. I feel like it doesn't look too cakey or too overdone when I use a beauty blender. You can also use a foundation brush. This is something that I would use if I was going to use a brush, as you guys have seen me use before in my previous tutorials. There's many different brushes out there for your foundation, so just get whatever you're comfortable with, and I'm just going to show you how I like to apply my foundation, which is with the beauty blender. So you can either dot this on your face or use some sort of like foundation brush like this and just kind of paint it on your face, or you can use your beauty blender and just dab it on there and start applying that to your face. I'm just going to use this foundation brush and kind of paint that on my face. Sometimes I just dab the beauty blender, which is probably not the best way, but that's just how I do it sometimes. You probably don't have all the time to be able to dot this or apply this with a brush like this. Just do whatever you're comfortable with and whatever you have time for. So I'm going to grab a little bit more product, just a tad bit, so I can apply a little bit onto my neck. And I'm just going to take this brush and apply a little bit down my neck. And now I'm going to take the beauty blender and I'm going to take this end and start pressing that onto my face. And you're basically just bouncing this little beauty blender to blend your foundation. You want to make sure you're blending it into your hairline, obviously not applying the foundation directly onto your hairline, but just blending it up towards it, because I always see people have like a line up here and it does not look cute. Let me just tell you, it's very obvious when you have a foundation line up there as well as here. That's why I applied foundation onto my neck, or usually I just kind of drag down whatever I have and apply that onto there too. So now I'm going into my concealer, and I'm just going to be using this MAC Pro Longwear concealer, and this is in the shade NC30. So this is a pretty full and thick coverage concealer. Like I said, use whatever you feel comfortable with. So I applied 2 pumps of that concealer in the back of my hand, and I'm going to dip that brush in it again, and I'm going to start in this corner here and drag it down, and then drag it out like that. So you go and do a line down that way and then do a line down that way, if that makes any sense. And then you're just going to fill it in, sort of creating kind of a upside down triangle shape. And this is just going to help you lift your face, give an instant lift and highlight and brighten that under eye. So just like that, apply it under the eye, drag it up higher if you want more of a lift as well, or conceal any areas that you have blemishes or pimples in. You also want to highlight the forehead right here and between the brows. So I'm highlighting there, and then down the nose, on the chin as well, and then a little bit above the lip. I'm also going to prime my lid with this concealer. This concealer is a good primer for your eyeshadow as well, so go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to use the same beauty blender and just bounce that under the eye as well. Make sure you're looking up when you're going into this little area of the eye, because if you do not look up, you are concealing those creases, and when you set it, it's just going to be a hot mess. Make sure you're looking up and blend the lid as well. Also, you want to make sure you're getting these corners right here. There's a lot of redness in there, so you want to make sure you get that little area too. You can also use this end and start blending that into your, what was that? Start blending that into your foundation area too. Since this is a lot brighter than the foundation, you want to make sure that it blends in with it. And then we're going to go on to setting the face. Like you guys have seen in my tutorials, I use this air spun powder and I use it to bake under the eye as well as the nose, a little bit on the forehead and the chin. This is the only thing that prevents me from getting oily. It honestly keeps my face matte, and I just love how this sets my makeup. So you don't have to do this. Obviously, if you're a beginner, you probably don't have the time of day to be baking your face for 5 to 10 minutes. So if you don't want to do this, you can definitely skip this step. Just use any sort of matte powder to set your face. So I'm just going to take that in there and use my beauty blender and look up as well and apply that under the eye. And then I'm going to apply that over the nose, especially in these corners here. That is where I get super duper oily too. I know it sounds gross. And then the forehead, a little bit on the chin. And I'm just going to let that sit under there for a little bit. You also want to set the lids. I'm just going to use a little bit of the powder to set the lid as well, which helps you blend your shadows better. If you were to start applying the shadows with this concealer over it, it's going to come out patchy and it's just not going to blend how you want it. So you want to set it with some sort of translucent powder. Just using my powder brush and running this little brush over my lid. So I'm going to go on to the eyeshadow while this rest of the face sits. For the eyeshadow, I'm going to be using this Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette. You can use any sort of eyeshadow palette. For the shadow, I'm going to start with a blending brush like this. You guys see me use this all the time. This is just the MAC 217 brush, and I'm going to go into the shade, what is it called? I'm going to go into the shade Mousse and Peanut Butter and mix those in together. You want to tap off the extra product on the brush, or it's going to fall under your eye and it's just going to mess everything up. So you want to make sure you're tapping off the excess off the brush. You want to make sure that your eye is in its natural kind of form. You don't want to be overdoing it or looking way too down or way too up, those sort of things. So you just want to be natural about it and then start applying that into your crease or a little bit above the crease. And this is going to work as your transition shade. And I always tell people that you have to have some sort of shade that everything blends into. So this is like your background color that everything seamlessly blends into. And I always go for either a brown or a mauve tone, anything that will just, like I said, blend everything nicely together. And I'm just running that back and forth, kind of windshield wiper motions into the crease. And then I'm just going to apply a little bit more color on the brush and do the same thing, basically building this color up, like I've said, to the intensity that you want and that you feel comfortable with. And then just doing the same thing to the other eye. Now we're going to go into creating a little bit of depth into the crease. And I'm going to take this tapered brush right here and I'm going to pick up the shade Truffled right here, which is just a medium brown shade. And then I'm going to go into the crease, and this, like I said, has a little tapered end. So this is perfect for the crease. And I'm just going to do, again, windshield wiper motions. And this, you want it to be below your transition shade. This is just how I'm going to do it, not focusing it too much on the outer V. I kind of just right below the transition shade and doing the same windshield wiper motions. After you've done that, go back into your MAC brush and go right into that crease where those two colors combine. and blend that out. You don't want to blend too much because then you just diffuse the color way too much. You just want to blend out those lines so there's no harsh line in between those shades. I'm really sorry if my voice sounds really deep, by the way. I don't know what is up with me. I just sound like a man. Once you've blended it to what you feel comfortable with, I'm going to go into this flat shader brush, and a trick that I always show you guys is to wet your brush. I used to use the Urban Decay setting spray until it finished. You can honestly use anything. You can use eye drops, you can use water, you can use a setting spray, anything that can kind of wet your brush a little bit. You don't want to soak it too much or it makes the shadow frosty. A trick that I've been using is if you use contacts, I use my contact solution and either pour it onto the back of my hand or onto my desk or something, and I just wet my brush with that. And this is like the perfect alternative. And then I just go into the shimmery shade that I want to use. I'm going to be using Butter Pecan right here, whatever's left of it. And I'm going to pick that up with the brush and apply that all over the lid. So I'm just applying that. So once you've applied that, then I always go back into that medium brown shade and blend that in together. You're just going right at the crease and applying that color again, because then you'll be able to see the line of where you applied the shimmery shade on your lid. It's basically a back and forth steps. So I'm going to go back and make sure that I cover it nicely again, just not going up too high to where I have to blend that line out again. And then here I'm just going back in to the transition shade once I finish the shadow look and blend everything together. Now I'm just going to take my powder brush and kind of dust that off, but at the same time use it to set the rest of the face. So I'm going to go into my contour, and I'm going to be using this Hoola bronzer that you can get at Ulta. It just looks like this, and it's just an amazing contouring shade, and I'm going to use a little brush like this, or you can also just use an angled brush like this, which I usually use too. But to be able to carve out that cheekbone and create more of a structured contour, you'd want to use something like this. You're going to want to suck in your cheeks, or you can also feel the cheekbone, and that's where you're going to be creating this shadow and kind of a hollow to your cheekbones. Just like that, see? Like that. And then you want to apply this onto your temples as well, connecting it to this contour as well as the forehead. You can also do the nose and the jawline. And this contour is just going to kind of make the illusion of minimizing a certain area. Like the cheekbones, it's going to make it look more structured, as well as the forehead. You can contour your forehead to make your forehead look smaller. Obviously, if you have a small forehead, you're not going to contour your forehead. So whatever you kind of want to minimize or create some sort of a shadow to, you're going to contour. And then you want to do the jawline as well. And this is all going to be blended out, so don't freak out. Like that. And now I'm going to use this brush and pick up a little bit of extra product on it and start blending all of this out. And this is exactly why you want to blend it, because here you can just see a straight up line right there. And then here it looks more like it's fading gradually up to that. So you want to make sure it's blended. You don't want to bring this down any lower, obviously. You're just blending it up. Now I'm going to take my powder brush and press that onto my forehead to blend out those lines up there a little bit more. Like that. And then you can do it on here too. And the nose a little bit. Whatever you feel like looks a little bit too harsh. And now this step is optional too. You can leave it as it is. I like to take my MAC Give Me Sun, which is just a really warm toned bronzer, and this is just going to warm up the face. You obviously don't want to apply too much. This does not serve as a contour shade. This is a bronzing bronzer. Now I'm going to apply my blush. I like to use this brush, which is just a big fluffy brush, and I'm going to dip it into my blush. And then again, dust off that extra product on there so it doesn't look too overdone. And just lightly apply that on the apples of your cheeks, blending it back onto your bronzer. You don't want to just focus it on this little circle here. You want to make sure it's blended back. After you've applied your blush, I'm going to go into the eyebrows since we're done with the face before I continue on to the eyes. So I'm going to take my Anastasia Beverly Hills Dip Brow Pomade, and I'm going to take my little angled brush. I do have an eyebrow tutorial for my brows, and I kind of just want to go through this very briefly and very simple. If you do want to learn how I do my brows or how I create more of a bold and create a shape to my brows, then you can go watch that video, and that is going to be an in-depth tutorial for the brows. But basically for a beginner's makeup tutorial, I'm not going to go too much in depth for the brow. And let me just say that I would probably suggest a brow wiz or a eyeshadow or like a powder form to start off doing your brows with. Just taking this angled brush, and I'm basically just going to fill in that shape that I already have. Like I said, I would probably suggest a powder form for someone who's just starting out with their brows, or just leave your brows. If you have a good shape, if you don't have like little sparse areas or whatever, leave your brows. They probably look good already. But I do have, like, as you can see, some bald spots in my brows, and just filling in a little bit, that is what it does right there. And you can just see already a huge difference in the brow. So that's just what I'm going to do. Basically just fill in those tiny areas of my brow that have a little bit of sparse areas in it. And then for this inner part, I'm just very lightly going to run my brush through it a little bit. And then just like that, it already looks a lot different and better than the other brow. And then I'm just going to comb through it, and you're good to go. Once you're done with the brows, I'm going to go ahead and finish up the eyes. I'm going to quickly, and honestly, I'm not going to explain this part because my next video is going to be a winged liner and lashes tutorial, also how I smoke out the lower lash line. So that is the next video that I have planned for you guys. But just know that I'm going to do an in-depth tutorial for you guys. If I combine both videos, it's going to be a 45-minute long video. So I'd rather kind of split it into two. Since someone also did request a winged liner tutorial, that is what I'm going to be doing next. Okay, so for the lower lash line, I'm going to apply this Rimmel London in the Nude liner, and you can apply a black liner onto your waterline. Of course, if you want to make this look more intense and smoky, you're going to apply obviously a black liner and smoke it out and create more smokiness on the lower lash line. If you want to keep it more natural, then you can either leave that space free of product, or you can apply a nude liner like this, which helps open up your eye and make your eyes look bigger, and it fills in that spot for that black liner. Just going to take the crease brush and apply a little bit of that same truffled color that we used in the crease, and I'm going to apply that a little bit under the nude liner. Okay, and as you can see there, I have applied it, and it does make a huge difference. Once you've applied your mascara and everything, it does pull everything together. Another step I don't like to skip is tight lining my waterline up here. I just take my black eyeliner and kind of do this creepy face and apply that into there. This is a huge step for me. I hate being able to see the wing liner and then seeing that skin tone in there. That's just one of my pet peeves, so if that doesn't bother you, then you can skip this step. But this is just a big step for me that I don't like to skip. I'm going to apply a little bit of highlighter. I'm going to be using this, what is it called? Soft and Gentle MAC highlighter. And you basically want to apply this on the top of your cheekbones, which is just going to bring light and a little bit of shimmer to that area, as well as the tip of the nose or down the nose and the cupid's bow. And this just highlights these areas where the sun would naturally hit. And obviously you don't have to do a lot. This is personal preference. You can also skip this step. Now I'm just going to apply mascara to the top lashes as well as the bottom lashes, and I'm just using this Maybelline Lash Sensational Mascara. And you always want to apply mascara to blend your false lashes with your real lashes, and just coating the bottom lashes as well. For the lips, I'm going to be using my normal kind of neutral everyday lip color, and I'm going to be using the Stockholm and Cairo lip color. To create that illusion of bigger, fuller lips, I apply this one in the center and this one all over the lips. You don't want to apply something that's way too nude, such as this, kind of all over the lips, unless you're going for that look. But personally, I think a mixture of these two makes the perfect natural lip color. If you like how that looks, then you can leave it just like that as well. But like I said, I'm going to put a little bit of this nude one in the center. And basically this beginner's makeup tutorial is complete. I really hope that you guys enjoy this video. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you like my channel.